What's going on, workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And in this episode of Community Feedback, we're talking about your comments regarding Final Fantasy XI coming to mobile. So, with that, let's talk about you.
So, starting off with Tim Terrell, I played Final Fantasy XI from the beginning. I played it on my PS2 with the hard drive over dial-up and on my PC for years.
Heck
you can
yeah.
still play the vanilla Final Fantasy XI for free online. There are private servers from a guy called Nasomi.
Mm-hmm.
You can go into the dunes, you can find a party still, no XP rings or books. It's amazing. The full nostalgia hit me again. The first year playing online was the best experience I've had in my life playing an online game ever. It was even better than the original EverQuest.
Yes. So, way to go, Tim. And that's awesome. Yeah, I knew that there were people, or at least somebody was hosting a private server at some point for Final Fantasy XI. Dude, fist bump for going in without rings or books, dude. Like, that's hardcore. That is hardcore. So, I'll update Chris about what that means. Is that at some point in Final Fantasy XI's history, they decided to do, you have EXP rings, which increase your general EXP, makes it easy.
Sure.
Obvious. The other one was they added these things called books. And these books are basically kind of almost what we ended up seeing with the Leave quest system in Final Fantasy XIV. This allowed you to go pick and say, hey, you need to kill 10 of this type of monster. And
Sure.
with that, you get a big reward at the end of it. And it ended up revitalizing leveling because it's like it allowed you to do that. Now there was I don't know if they ever went back and changed it, but allowed you to do that every so many hours, etc. So, but there were multiple pages of a book that you could kind of pick.
Okay.
So it was really like, and with that and with level sync, completely revitalized the game, especially for a while because now you didn't have to have that static.
Sure.
Because literally, like if you went too far outside of that range, you were hurting everybody below you because they were getting reduced XP. Level sync fixed that, and so with the books, with the rings, leveling became something that was like, oh, this is not that difficult, and there's some objective other than standing in a single spot, because then
Right.
it was like, oh, well, let's move to this camp and let's go farm this page, So, Tim, hardcore, that is awesome. I don't think I could do that. I'm, straight up don't have that kind of time, but based off of y'all's feedback, I did the Twitter poll, and overwhelmingly, y'all voted for me never to return to Final Fantasy XI. I was really surprised. I was like, oh, okay, well, that I will respect that. I will respect that for now, especially with Destiny 2 coming out
Sure.
with a couple things like that. It's like, right now, there's just no real time to go and actually
I have games that I want to play right now that I'm not getting to,
Mm-hmm.
that I have friends that are playing.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be looking for things to play outside of that.
So anyway, I'm hoping that they'll do kind of like with Final Fantasy XIV, where they do kind of a free trial or a free period where you can log in for free. And if they do
Yeah.
that, I will definitely jump in.
And EverQuest tells me that you are a lot more old school than
I
am
never
as far
had the
as-
chance.
I wanted to play EverQuest, and I just didn't have the resources. My family had one computer at the time, and I mean, it was already.
It couldn't run it, and which, if you think about it, like we did not have a computer that could run that game. And
there are
then
just epic stories coming out of it, though, like 11-hour boss fights and
11-hour, like way longer.
Yeah. Now they eventually found out that there were mechanics that made that faster, but
Yeah.
it was just such a
my
neat
gosh,
entry point into MMOs, and I'm jealous of those that got to enjoy that.
Yeah, it would be very difficult to bring that style of gameplay into the modern world and actually have people who are willing to kind of suffer through it because they're competing against the other things. I was thinking
you could
about
make
that,
it kind of like a big Fate where like you did your piece and then it's like it moves into different phases and based on which phases you participated in you get rewards and you have it be server wide.
Yeah,
but that's about it. It'd be kind of like a World of Warcraft AQ type thing where like as a server gets a certain amount of damage on a boss, it moves into the next phase.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Oh, that'd be cool. Like
but that's about it. I don't know that you could do it where a party actually sticks together for all of that.
No, that'd be so hard. Anyway,
but thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Great comment. Great, and thanks for sharing. That's fantastic. So then Brandon Mitchell writes, I played Final Fantasy XI for years. I would love to play it again, but just not on mobile. I have heard that there is an NPC that will join you and make the game pretty soloable, and I would like to see them take that system and use it to kind of make the game play on console or PC. I don't think a graphic overhaul is going to be needed. The battle system maybe is too slow for younger people, and that might need an update. I would play the game again in those types of conditions. So, that's interesting because I, too, could not really care about the mobile aspect. We talked about it in the video. Switch would be freaking awesome. Now, not the old Final Fantasy 11, you know, in the style of that.
You could require a Wi-Fi connection.
You could do that. You could absolutely require Wi-Fi.
Things like, I mean, it's not like true mobile where I'm sitting on a train.
I mean, you could even technically make the 11, you know, how it was, run on the Switch probably really easily. But they update it, right? And, you know, yeah, you can kind of solo it, etc. I think that would be a better experience in my mind than playing on a tablet. And that's just me. I'm not a huge mobile gamer. Chris, are you big into mobile games?
No, but it is one of the few spots that I find I actually have an opening because I'm not primarily a mobile gamer, so I spend so much time researching what my next Xbox game will be, what my next PC game will be, and what my next MMO is going to be, what racing game I'm excited about, and so sometimes that leaves mobile to be like, oh, I'm going to go on a trip next month and I have 2 layovers in airports. What should I bring with me? And I don't know. So to have something like this where that just plugs in there, it's like I'll buy 11 right when it comes out. I'll play it next time I'm in an airport.
I would, with the exception for me on mobile of Pokemon Go, where you're kind of just out and about and it's easy to pop in, check something out, and do that. And that kind of quick ability, especially like, hey, I'm in an office and I'm just going to wait for a few minutes. I can go do that. That's the kind of the question is that, you know, what type of game will this end up being? And that's, I think, the root of what Brandon's asking here is that, you know, he would rather have a 11 version with a story as just a single player game. And I wouldn't be opposed to that from just a history of Final Fantasy, but I do like the multiplayer aspect of it, and I really want to learn more about what they're doing because mobile implies a few things. I don't think they can charge a subscription, so how are they going to monetize, especially if it is multiplayer? They're going to have a way of making money to support those servers, unless we run into an issue where the original 11's no more. Mobile can't be supported because it's not making enough money. Then the only option is to have them take that and make a standalone single-player RPG. And, you know, how does that translate? So, I don't know. I can't blame you that those are your conditions. I know that I'll be following and learning more about Final Fantasy 11, and I will give it a shot, but, man, that does sound kind of good. Anyway. Any thoughts?
No, I think that when people start talking about changes being like updating it and stuff, you get dangerously close to why Final Fantasy XIV was born. So if it's going to exist, it needs to exist in its own way.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the mobile only from the standpoint of, like you said, it was designed to run on computers back then, and so there's a very good chance that the Switch and everything might be powerful enough.
Oh, man.
I don't know what the min specs on what they're going to release is, but
yeah.
the Switch is shockingly powerful if you back it up 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially like if they're targeting this to run on a phone, like the phone can easily, I think, translate to the Switch. And it would be, in my mind, so comfortable. It would feel so good to hold that and play it. Wi-Fi enabled, that's fine. Now we can sit here and talk. And the gameplay, would have to obviously be updated. But anyway, here's hoping.
Well, thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Appreciate the comment.
Keely Bjork says, I imported my character and her story into Urza from Vanadil. I RP that she's a really old lady by now, and being plucked and dropped into Urza is like the last thing she wanted. So she keeps looking for ways home. Diablos, he's one of the primal avatars who acts most like his 11 self. Doma, she was desperate that somebody had maybe heard of Windurst or Alzabi. Now, with Omega and World of Darkness, she realized that Vanadil might be one of the other shards. So she's still looking for a way home. If Yoshi P ever does an expansion that takes place in 11, which I personally doubt, that would bring my main to her goal and many tearful farewells to 14 with NPCs. So I think that's awesome. I have never had the discipline to RP heavily. I have played Dungeons and Dragons and something where I can spend all week gearing up for, okay, on Sunday I'm going to play D&D. But I also use an MMO just as like my wife's studying for some professional exams right now, and I just want to come in here and eat pizza with like a sci-fi show on my computer, and I'll just play on my console. And so like I'm not always in that mindset. So I've always kind of liked reading RP stories, and I've never been. It's like that guy that doesn't put up Christmas lights but wants everybody else to. It's like, I'll go see them. I'm just not going to put in the effort to contribute. So I appreciate you doing this. That is an awesome story, and I can picture it, and I hope that the character creation screen gave you at least enough flex that you can imitate it.
I hope that you were able to find your way back home to Vanadil. And I would say, like, from the I'll address the RP side of this first, is that I love RPers, and I love the concept of RPing, and I've always wanted try it. I've done it somewhat in 11. I kind of do it in 14 in the regards that my character is more a reflection of who I am. So I'm a nice person who helps people out. Like, so it's kind of translated. It's no stretch on the on my acting chops in game. You know, a lot less thous and, you know, like old English style speaking than, you know, I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to do that. Because I know a lot of people like translate like, oh, RP means you have to talk like in old English. No. So I've got a couple characters that I consider my RP characters, but from a progression perspective, from a gameplay perspective, I don't have enough time to spend with any of them. With the jump potions, I've debated on jumping one of them up and being able to kind of play as that character and RP as that, especially because nobody knows that character, and so I could, you know, he's a little bit more rough around the edges, so I could kind of RP that. And then the fact that we can put the RP flag up by our name, people will know that, like, oh, he's role-playing, and, you know, he's a little bit salty, and so it's definitely a little bit more different to, you know, who I am in life and in game with my character Prince Alazar, right? So I applaud you. I think that's awesome. I love the background. I've written a couple backgrounds for some of my characters as well, but it's like it's just such a secondary kind of thing that it's kind of fun. But I do like that, and I hope that they'll continue to bring in more options, like essentially Vanadil, and that then jumps into the concept that in an interview with Gamerscape, Yoshi P teased that the world of Vanadil might be a part of Hydaelyn.
He would like to see.
Yeah.
He would like to see. And that ties in with the fact that he really wants 14 to tie into... Final Fantasy is unique in that you could own all 12 titles, and they don't necessarily have a true order or list that they're meant to be played in. You're not going to see characters, but you might see some things repeat because it is the same designers, it's the same concepts, and so they're kind of treated almost like parallel worlds existing, and so 14 is supposed to be able to kind of tie them together.
Yeah, it would be interesting because you could do a lot with that, right? So like you could even say that 14, and by the time we went to Vanadil and all that, this has existed before the time of the Dark Lord and all these like various stories that happen there.
Case,
or it could exist sometime thousands and thousands of years after all the stories in 11 happened and took place. Like
you might find out you're a really young lady.
Yeah. Whoa! My gosh, that'd be insane. That it like she traveled back in time or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
this whole time we
whole
thought based on the cataclysmic event at the end of 11 that this was after that because they said it was 7 years or something.
Yeah.
But it turns out it was actually before. I don't know. I feel like there'd be a soap opera writer in there somewhere.
Oh, exactly.
But
my evil twin.
Thank you, Keely.
Thank you, Keely.
This is a great comment.
Yeah, all right. And now we have Azure Arcade writing. I couldn't bring myself to play it again. The nostalgia would be there, but that would be it. The same thing goes for WoW, and the same thing goes for a lot of older games like the original Mario and Sonic. They were fun back then, and then they lost their glamour now. For me, it's more about the memories. Final Fantasy XI was my first MMORPG and one of my all-time favorites. And that's a real good point. I think the one thing that's interesting, though, is like, let's take Mario and Sonic, just kind of like as a side note here. I got the Sonic game for the Switch, and it's freaking amazing. Like, it is so good. And it has some nostalgia base, but it's also a new game and it has new, things and stuff like that it's being enjoyed. Mario continues to reinvent himself, and so that is always something that, like, why are we still talking about Mario and Sonic today? And that same thing with Final Fantasy. It's that the series continues to reinvent itself. Sometimes it's fun to go take a trip back, but sometimes it's nice when they take that trip back and they bring it up to more modern standards, so that way you're not sitting here playing an 8-bit game.
So, like, my wife and I actually had the same degree, but we focused in different things during our masters, and she focused on historic preservation. And so two of the big concepts in historic preservation is, are you restoring it to accuracy or are you restoring it to intent? The intent of a game developer was to create the most fun game of that type in that era. And so they said, Mario game is this platformer, there's going to be these puzzle type things, these are the following enemies, this is the world it takes place in. And from the intent, they have re-released many, many titles, and we're going to get the newest one this winter, and I'm really excited about it. And the other side of that is going back and playing Mario on regular Nintendo. Give me my original Nintendo controller, and let's, give me a tube television. Let's play it as it was enjoyed then. And so those are both very conflicting things, but they're both for the intent of, we love Mario. We're getting there differently.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. And then so what does change is like Duck Hunt. You can't play Duck Hunt on modern televisions because they were based on the tube. So if you re-release Duck Hunt, you have to come up with some new technology for the gun to work. And then it becomes a question of, okay, now you got to sell me the game. Do you then also have to sell me the gun? Then are there multiple guns?
Why not just make it on a tablet and you can just touch the ducks?
It's not the same. There was something about popping up from behind my couch and shooting across the room.
The another kind of, I guess, theme here or something like that. We're talking about kind of nostalgia, and even for 11, that it, all-time favorites. And we talked about this a little bit earlier in a comment, but how are they going to fund 11? If it's a free-to-play game, that means microtransactions, obviously. That means
I think that was mentioned in another comment.
Yeah, it's definitely mentioned in another comment on the video, and it was that microtransactions, premium currency. Like, is it going to be one of those games that feels fun, or is it going to be one of those games that continually feels gated until you put forth money, and to the point where I prefer a subscription game because I don't ever have to do that. Like, it's something, that in and of itself is that way. And that's where my whole thing is that, honestly, I would love to see, I don't know how they're planning on doing it. Rumor is that obviously microtransactions, but I would honestly prefer some type of Square Enix subscription fee. Like, it's like, hey, I'm going to sub to Square Enix games. I pay, instead of $15 a month, I pay $17 a month, and it's an umbrella subscription. And right now, since I'm Legacy, I pay $10, so that would be kind of a little bit more of an increase. But that fact is that they did that originally for Final Fantasy XI as it exists today, but they only allowed that for 3 months. Like, you got that bonus for 3 months, and that was it. And it's like, why not continue that reduced rate if you are sub to 1 or something?
Yeah, I think remastering a game and bringing it to mobile, free to play with microtransactions makes sense. Mario Run got a lot of criticism for it, and I don't know why. Because the amount that you had to spend to unlock it, if that game had just come out with that amount of money as the cost, it would have done just fine.
Yeah.
So it was unfair
$10
to say that we want a demo to come out. I disagree with it. So on one hand, it does make sense for the model. You're re-releasing 11. You're considering mobile. Free-to-play is a logical conversation to bring up in the conference room.
Right.
On the other side of that, Yoshi P has made it abundantly clear that Square Enix, not just him, but Square Enix feels that free-to-play means that you're going to spend your development time and your development resources on things that can generate money instead of things that don't, which makes sense as any business. So when you're selling the whole game for a subscription, you just want to make the whole game really fun so that they'll want to play next month, right? That's your goal. And so that means they're motivated for us to have fun. A transaction, they're motivated for me to buy glamour.
Yeah.
And so that's two different things when you talk about, like, do you release additional dungeons? Do you make it easy to level? I mean, experience rings would need to cost money, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's an opportunity to fund the game.
It's a slippery slope. And I don't like slippery slope arguments, but it's that it easily becomes that of nickeling, diming. And then it ends up being like, do people just go in and take that short trip? Oh, that was cool.
And then they're $2 and they're done.
And then I'm done forever. And then that game, because the whole, at least from our perspective, the whole reason they were doing this is to kind of preserve the continued legacy of that game. So there aren't gaps in the numbered series, even though it's not meant to be played, But
I don't think you can re-release it as a remastered AAA title with $60 price tag, because you already see, as you're saying, I don't think I'd play it again.
Right.
So does it call for a different business model? Because there are a lot of people that say, yeah, I'm not going back.
Right.
No matter what, I'll just leave that fond memory where it was.
I am definitely going to go check it out if it's on mobile. I definitely would actually plop money down if it was on a console or that I could play it on PC. Because like I said, I'm not a huge mobile gamer.
Then.
But not until then.
Yeah.
No, let it come out.
And that was an overwhelming theme in the comments as well. Was we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of vagueness here. Which makes sense because it wasn't a leak of the game. It wasn't an intentional trailer. All of this came out of speculation off an investor report. So they're not prepared to give us more information.
Yeah, this screenshot came out over a year ago. This is just the latest bit of spark to that. But the thing is outside of, the general theme, people are interested. There is a general interest in that from a nostalgia perspective, and most people are in a wait and see kind of mindset.
Yep.
I'm still impressed with all the people who are still playing and paying for Final Fantasy XI in today's era. That's epic, Tip of the hat to you if you're one of those people. But This is going to be something that's going to be interesting to see, and probably an interesting video to come back to whenever this game eventually, if it eventually comes out. Again, like I said, my vote, okay, cool, it runs on my phone. Let me run it on my Switch. Let me play it in a way that I want to play it, and that would be interesting and fun. That could be so interesting. People are like wanting 14 on the Switch. Okay, well, that'd be kind of hard, from a technology perspective. Not saying they're not saying no. Right. But they're not saying, they're not giving us any kind of like absolute answer there. But for 11, technology-wise, that could be something that could easily fit into that model. And I think more so than a mobile game. But that's just me. Anyway, thanks, Azure, for the comment and allowing us to get onto that.
Yeah, it was a whole interesting thread. So it was hard to pick just a handful of comments.
Yeah, this was actually the hardest one to pick from the comments. I think so many people had so many real good comments.
So thank you guys so much for all your responses. Yeah. Definitely let us know if you have anything else you're thinking about it, or if there's anything else you'd like us to cover. I think that the idea of Final Fantasy in general coming to mobile, and not just in a mobile-only title, but just kind of bridging that gap, because they have mobile-only, and then they have not mobile, and it's interesting.
Blended together. All right. For Works a Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching this video, and we hope to see you in our next. But until then, we hope you have a fantastic week. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to check out any other videos, you should click over here. And then we've got like some kind of vlog thing down here in the corner. And then we've got like subscribe. That's really, you should totally do it. This was a complete disaster.